Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to today's live analysis session brought to you by Vantage and Zeta Labs. So we'll just wait for about 1 to 2 more minutes for more people to stream in, right? And if you guys have any questions as well with regards to specific charts requests that you want us to take a look at, right? Please put them under the questions chat and we'll take a look at them together. So I have the questions chat open as well, so I can see any of your questions. Okay, so just a brief overview of what we will be covering for today, right? So for the flow for today, we will be mainly covering on the trade setups. So a review of dollar CAD setup last week. So we made a bearish call on dollar CAD last week, so we will take a look at that. And then for this week, I'll be showing you guys a setup on Aussie dollar, right? And if you guys have any other chart requests as well, do put them under the questions chat. Okay, let's get the session started. So just a quick introduction of myself, right? Nice to meet all of you guys who are here. I'm Lee Sing, so I provide FX advisory to institutional clients. I'm also part of the team that's recognized as finalists for the best FX research for 4 consecutive years. If you guys have any questions when you're watching the recording, right, it will be posted on YouTube. So if you do want to take a look at the old videos that were done earlier, right, you can find it on Vantage YouTube website. If not, if you guys have any questions with us and you're live right now, right, do put them under the questions chat. So just a quick disclaimer before we get the session started proper, right? All the information presented here, it's not to be treated as investment advice. They are for educational purposes only. Okay, so this is the agenda that we will be covering for today. So we will first hop onto the economic calendar to cover on the key events, and following which we will be doing the review of dollar CAD setup done on Friday. And then we will also be hopping on to Aussie dollar. So there's a setup that I'm currently looking at on Aussie dollar. So I'll be sharing that with you guys. And then if you guys have any chart requests, right, or any questions, it doesn't have to be related to the charts that we are covering. It can be other charts. Let's say, for example, if you want to have the outlook on gold, SPX, oil, right, do put them under the chat box and we will take a look at them together. So for this session, right, on Wednesdays and Fridays, usually how we run it, it's that on Wednesday, we will be doing a review of last week's setup. And then on Friday, we will be doing a review of Wednesday's setup. And at the same time, we will also be showing any other trade setups that we have. So before we hop onto the chart to take a look at dollar CAD, right, let's take a look at the setup, the economic calendar first. So let me just bring up the economic calendar. Okay, so this is the economic calendar, right? You can use Forex Factory or you can also use Vantage Markets, right? So they have a Vantage economic calendar as well. Just go to vantagemarkets.com under Education and Tools, economic calendar. So this is the one. So you can see that this is basically categorized according to the different currencies, right? The impact of the events on the currencies. We can see that coming up, we have mainly on the dollar and the CAD. That's one, right? So you can see a slew of data on the dollar. And then important ones would include the BOC monetary policy. So this would be affect Canada. So in this case, you can see the impact of the events as well. So the ones in red and the ones in amber are the ones with high and medium impact. The ones in silver are the ones with the lower impact. So this column that we have over here, this is the actual data and the ones on the side, right? So generally, you can just compare the actual and forecast value. If actual is better than forecast, depending on what the data is, right? So if it's retail sales data, it could point to resilient domestic growth. If it's CPI data, if inflation is running hotter than what it's forecast, what is expected, what could happen is that it could pressure the central banks to raise interest rates further as well to fight inflation. So this is what we have. You can see that coming up would affect mainly on the dollar and CAD. We also have BOC's interest rate decision coming up here. Okay, as well as a bunch of oil inventory data. So this is mainly on the economic calendar, right? So I look at mainly the G7 currencies. So in this case, it will be the dollar, the CAD, euro, pound, Australia dollar, Canadian dollar, as well as New Zealand dollar, and the yen. Okay, so now that we have take a look at the economic calendar, let's take a look at the dollar CAD setup that we have on Friday. So let me just bring up the chart. Let me just bring up the right one, right? So this is the one that we did for the analysis. Yep, so this is on the higher time frame, right? So you can see that on the higher time frame, we highlighted this region. So let's start from the higher time frame first. So as always, right, we start from the higher time frame to give us a sense of where prices might be heading, right? And what's the direction like on the bigger picture. So you can see that on the higher time frame, on the weekly time frame, prices are sitting on this resistance area over here, this blue zone that we have highlighted. And the reason we highlighted this area, it's because you can see that there is this consolidation here where prices move sideways before we see a clear break below this region. So this area itself would be our supply zone, right? So we extended this region across, and you can see that currently this is where prices are sitting on right now. So prices are testing this area. So this is on a weekly time frame. What this means is that every movement, right? So each candle itself, the high, open, high, low, and close prices would represent the movement, the highest price, right? And the lowest price, the open price, and the close price within that week. So generally on the higher time frame, if you take a look at the weekly, the monthly, you can see that it's less choppy as compared to going down to the 5 minutes time frame. So on the 5 minutes, you can see a lot more whipsaws, right? Whereas if you're on the weekly time frame, the daily time frame, basically the higher time frames, in this case, you can see that you have a much clearer movement here. You can also trace out the market structures clearly here. So this is on the weekly time frame. We saw this consolidation before the clear break below this level. And if you take a look at it, even in line chart, you can see as well, right? So prices are moving sideways before we saw that clear break. And right now, this region itself, it's currently the supply or resistance area where prices are coming back to test this region here. So this is where current prices are, where we saw that reversal. When you go down to the smaller time frame, so on this region itself, you can see that let's go down to the 4 hours time frame. So on the 4 hours time frames, it's the same idea, right? So currently you can see that in the 4 hour structure, we have this, right? So price pushing higher to form this area. This is the low, and price pushed into this resistance area that we have here, or the supply region. And when price comes into this region, we saw that rejection of this, right? Denoted by this candle, so this bearish candle here. So what we did on on Friday last week, it's that this region, right? So we identified this region as a resistance. So this area here. So this is the first area as the resistance, and this is the next area as the resistance. So we identified these two regions. The reason why I put a blue vertical line over here, this is essentially the chart that we are seeing on Friday. So we're looking at something like this on Friday, right? So this is essentially how the analysis, or rather how the chart looks like on Friday, right? So I put a blue marker here so that we can see how it plays out after. So essentially you can see the reason again, right, why we highlighted this resistance area. It's because of this reaction. So you can see how price interacted, again, the consolidation here. So if I go down to the 30 minutes, you'll be able to see it clearer. So it's the same thing, right? So the reason why we highlighted this, you can see this consolidation before that break. And then this is currently the region that prices are sitting on. So apart from highlighting this region, right, for those of you guys who are familiar, we also do our Fibonacci retracements. So one thing I do want to highlight in terms of doing the Fibonacci retracement, it's that it's important to note, or rather it's important to highlight these regions first and see if there are any Fibonacci retracement or extension levels that line up here. So we do not want to just start off by doing a Fibonacci retracement, right? Because with Fibonacci retracement, you can find levels almost everywhere. So this is why it's important for us to identify the region first before drawing any retracements or extensions to see if there are any levels that line up in this zone. So this is what we did, right? And on this region itself, you can see that the Fibonacci retracement that we took. So this is the last move before we saw that pullback over here. So we took a Fibonacci retracement, right? To find resistance, you need to identify the high. And this is what we will be using as the starting point. And then the low over here, which is the ending point. So that's what we did over here. So Fibonacci retracement of the move from high to low. And that's how we got the 78.6 retracement that you're seeing here. Okay, and then following which, right, so this is the resistance area. We go down to the smaller time frame. So the next one would be on the 15 minutes time frame. So you can see on the 15 minutes time frame or even the 30 minutes, right? 15 minutes, you can see more details. But the idea here is that you can see that prices are still respecting this demand area. You can see how price, again, small consolidation, a clear break above. Price came in to revisit this region, and you see the same thing here, right? So this demand area essentially holds. So this is the reason why we want to wait for a clear break and close below this region over here first, right? Denoted by these candles. So this colored candles that we have, it's essentially our projection. So this is what we're expecting. So you can see over here, right? Essentially, we need to wait for a close and break, a break and close below this region first before we see more downside with this low as the target. How we got this low as the target, it's based on this. So you can see that there is this strong push down and a rejection of this level. So this would be, if I were to reference it to support resistance concepts, right? This is basically the last support level. You can see this drove prices into this resistance area here. So this is the support level. So you can see that essentially on a break and close below, this would give us the downside confirmation, right? Given that prices are sitting on this resistance level over here, this resistance, it's on the higher time frame, right? On your 1 hour. And on the bigger picture, you can see that on the weekly time frame, right? This is the resistance area where we saw that reversal. So this is what we have here. And let's take a look at how prices play out. So in this case, I'll just remove the replay button so you can see this region, right? So we did see a close below and price came in and tested as a resistance again. So I'll just extend this. You can see the break and close comes in here, this region. So currently there is a break and close below the region, right? So this is the downside area. So once this area, it's broken, or rather this support level is violated, what we have is that this support level then becomes a resistance. So you can see this region here, right? So price broke and closed below this region. Once price broke and closed below this region, this became a resistance level. We saw a retest, right? So this would be your breakout retest over here, support and resistance level before it continued to the downside. So which is this portion here, essentially. So this is on dollar CAD, right? So you can see this region here. So this is the setup on dollar CAD on Friday, right? Now let's take a look at how it's like here now. So let's again, right? So let me just remove all these levels now that this played out nicely. Let's take a look at what we have currently. So I'll just remove all these levels, right? I will keep the weekly because this region, it's still the same, right? This didn't change. So it's still the weekly resistance area here. So the same region, right? When we take a look at it on the smaller time frame, you can see on the daily especially, right? We have a daily support, or rather a daily low, right? So if you take a look at the structure here, this is currently what we have on the daily. Let me just trace this out. So you can see that there is a strong push up, and this forms this daily low. This is the last daily low before we saw that clear break above this region, and currently prices are sitting, or rather visiting this low again here, this region that we have over here. So this is the daily low, right? So you can look at it in line chart as well. You can see this region, right? There is a very clear area here where essentially we saw this push down and a rejection of this area here. So this would be the daily structure. So I'll just highlight this as a daily low here, right? And let's go down to the smaller time frame. So on the 4 hours picture, you can see that this is currently the structure. Prices are pulling back into this region, and this itself is the last demand area that we have over here, right? And the reason why I highlighted this area is because if you take a look at how prices play out here, it's the same thing, right? So on the 4 hours time frame, we have this consolidation. You see this consolidation, price broke above this region, came back to test this area. So this creates our last demand area. And this is the reason why I highlighted this area and this candle specifically. Okay, so you can actually highlight anywhere within this region. The reason why I highlighted this candle is because the candle the low of this candle actually sweeps the previous low. You can see the low of this candle is lower than this low, right, before it continues to the upside. So this for me, it's the 4 hours demand area. So I'll just label this as the H4. Here. Okay, so this is the 4 hours demand area. You can see that pulling back into this leg itself, prices are in a bearish trend. You can see lower lows and lower highs being formed over here, right? If I were to trace out this move. And on top of that, I believe prices are also holding below some form of descending channel. So this is the area. So you can see this descending channel that we have over here. So this is on a 4 hours time frame, right? So you have this area. Now let's take a look at this, or rather let's focus on this picture here. So where we are currently. So this is on a 4 hours picture. Okay, so you can see this descending channel. One thing to note is that for a descending channel to be valid, we need at least 2 taps at the resistance levels and 2 taps at the support. Okay, so if you want to consider a channel to be valid, you need at least a test of the resistance twice. It doesn't have to be consecutive, but price need to respect it at least twice. And then same thing, right, for the support. So this would be the 2 resistance level that you're seeing over here, and this would be the support region. Okay, so this is currently what we're seeing. I've also marked out the levels that price respected here. Right, so currently prices are sitting on this H4 demand area. It's also on testing the support of this channel. So in terms of the resistance area on the 4 hours, this is a clear resistance area here, right? So this region, let me just highlight this and put this in a different color. So let's put this in, let's say blue, right? Because this is on the smaller time frame. So the idea behind this is that you can see again, if I were to extend it across, it's a previous support and resistance level. How so? You see price push down, tested as a support level, broke this level, tested as a resistance, and continue on the downside. So this is the reason why I highlighted this area itself. You can see this clear support and resistance level here. You can take a look at it in line chart as well. You can see if I were to draw a horizontal line across this area here, you can see this blue line that we have just drawn, right? It basically separates the chart very neatly across as support and resistance. So this for me is the first resistance level, or rather the first resistance zone that we have, this area that we have over here. So this is the range, right? So if you want to put it in resistance, you can see it as well, right? So this resistance line that has been tested as both a support and resistance. So having highlighted our zone, the next thing that we want to do is to identify our Fibonacci retracement. So for Fibonacci retracement, right, recall, if we want to use it to find resistance, we need to identify the move first. So this is the last move down that we have, right? So if this is the new low and we're seeing a pullback here, this would be the high and this is the low. One thing I do want to highlight is that if prices continue making new lows, then in this case, you would have to adjust this lowest point, right? But as with where we are right now, you can see that this is the high and this is the low. So if we do see a pullback from here, we will be using this as the starting point and this as the ending point. So let's take a look at that, right? And see if there are any Fibonacci retracement that lines up in this resistance area we have identified. So Fibonacci retracement starting from the high, which is this point, to the low. So these are the key retracement levels, right? These are the default ones on TradingView. Generally, I take a look at 61.8 and 78.6. These are the 2 common ones. In this case, you can see that this region itself, price came in, right? And you can see that it's the area, this resistance area that we've highlighted, right? This is in line with the 61.8 retracement level. Okay, so this is the region, right? So this is the first resistance area here. And having identified this, right, the next thing that we want to check is if there are any Fibonacci extension levels. So for Fibonacci extension levels itself, they are zigzag pattern. So you can see that in this case, this would be the zigzag pattern here, right? This is one potential zigzag pattern, assuming that we do see the pullback here. So this would be the 3 points that you're taking as the reference points. So you'll basically project, right? So this is point 1 that we're taking, point 2 and point 3. So what we're trying to do right now is to see if there are any Fibonacci extension levels, right, that lines up with this resistance zone. And in this case, what it shows us, so in this case, you can see there's a 100% extension level here. I'll put it in blue, right, this region. It's in line with the area that we've highlighted as well. what this shows us is that there's a high probability, right, of this resistance area here. So trading is all about probability. In this case, you can see that there are two Fibonacci levels that line up here and line with the resistance. So this is the resistance area that I'm keeping a lookout for, right? So again, let me just put a marker here so that we're able to review it. So in this case, right, we can see that on the higher time frame, prices are testing a bearish area that we have over here. This is the resistance area that we want to see price enter, right? And again, I'm on a 4 hours time frame. So what this means is that on the smaller time frame, let's say maybe on the 30 minutes, right, when price enters into this region, it's the same thing, right? So similar to the dollar CAD example that we saw, we want to make sure that when price enters into this region itself, we are seeing a clear change in structure, a break of the low, right, or a break of a support area that was previously respected, and then a retest as a resistance before pushing lower. So this is exactly the same dollar CAD example that we just saw earlier, right, the one that we reviewed earlier, right? So essentially identifying the zone and going down to the 15 minutes or 30 minutes time frame, right, with the most recent price development. So coming into this area, if price push into this region, you'll see higher lows and higher highs being formed. We don't want to take a trade immediately. Rather, we want to wait for the last demand area that we've identified to fail and a retest of it as a resistance before it continues to the downside. So this is for this is my view on dollar CAD. Something else to keep in mind is that because we do have the BOC interest rate decision coming up as well, right? So this is important in case price just shoots right through, driven by fundamentals. Okay, so in this case, this is the area, right? This is the area that I'm watching out for on the 4 hours. When price comes in, right, when it enters into this region, I would again go down to probably the 15 minutes time frame, right? Wait for a clear break of the support before taking the shot. So this is on dollar CAD, right? So currently prices are just hovering around this H4 demand area over here. So I'm waiting for a pullback into this region. That's one. And if price breaks this region itself, right? So this is the demand area. If price breaks below this region, then this would be the next support and resistance area. So this would be an area here, right? So a clear break and close below, a retest of it to continue to the downside. The next support area that I've identified is this area here. Same thing, you saw that consolidation before a clear break above. So this is the next area in terms of support. So this is my view on dollar CAD, right? So I think that we could see a push into this region. Let me just highlight this first, right? So this is the area. So I think we could see a push into this region, right? And then for the downside from here. Again, I do want to emphasize that we are not taking any immediate positions here. We need to go down to the smaller time frames to ensure that there is a clear break of the support or demand area before taking the shots. So this is on dollar CAD. I'll just put a marker here, right? And let's review how it plays out again on Friday. Okay, so I have a question, right? I wonder if you can give a take on whether Gold Spot can return to test 1620, the previous low. So let's take a look at Gold Spot. Okay, so this is on Gold Spot. Okay, let's take a look at dollar index as well, right? Okay, so let's look at Gold Spot first. So in this case, you can see here, right? So we've highlighted the areas previously on gold. So this is the support area that we've highlighted on the weekly time frame. And then likewise, right, you can see that on the weekly, prices are testing this resistance area. How so? We can see how prices reacted over here as support, and then price failed and currently is testing as a resistance. This is on the weekly picture. When we're on the daily picture, or rather the 4 hours, right? So we can see more insights on this. So back on Friday, right, I believe that we're somewhere here. So we saw this area here, right? So you can see that on the 4 hours, we saw price testing this demand area. You can see this area, right? So essentially this last candle, we saw this hesitation before that strong break above the last high that we have over here. So this is the candle, price came in, tapped into this region. This is the 4 hours demand area that we have, right? So having tapped into the 4 hours demand area, let me just put this area over here, right? So this area, what we did is that we go down to the smaller time frame. It's the same thing, right? I believe this is the 30 minutes time frame. So you can see that on the 30 minutes time frame, this is the last structure that we have. So back on Friday, this was probably it's Friday 4 p.m. So it's somewhere here. So anything to the right of the blue line that we have, right? It's what played out. What we highlighted was on to the left of it. So essentially on this area itself, you can see on the 30 minutes time frame, prices are pushing to form your lower lows and lower highs. This is the last low that we have, price push lower. We highlighted this as the resistance area to break, right? So only when price breaks above this area would we see more upside, right? So when price breaks above, then this would be in line with your 4 hours demand, right? Because prices are sitting on this 4 hours demand area. So this is the area that we highlighted, right? This zone to be careful of, because only on the break of this area over here, then we will see further push up. So this is the area that we highlighted in blue. You can see that this area also lines up with the descending trend line. Okay, so this is the descending trend line that we drew on Friday. So this region you can see, so the break and close, right? This is why it's important to wait for a break and close above this region. So you can see that when price push into this area here, it acknowledges this zone the first time, and then you see a very clear, strong candle, this bullish candle where we saw a break and close, and then a retest of it as a support, right? So if to just highlight this region and we go down to the smaller time frame, you can see how price play out clearly here. So we have this region, you can see this area, there is this resistance area, price broke and closed above this region, retested as a support before it continued to the upside. So you can see this became a support turn resistance level. Resistance turn support level here. It was resistance, price failed, became support, and it continued higher. So this is the area here, right? So price continued higher. This is the next resistance zone. So you can see that price pushed up much higher. It came into this region again. Oops, sorry. Okay, so price came into this region again, the same region that caused that breakout. So if you just take a look at how price interacted in terms of candle, you can see that this candle itself was the one that caused the breakout and the pullback back into this area. And then price came in and essentially respected this candle as a support before it continued higher here. Okay, so this is the next resistance area that we have. You can see that price broke above this region. So right now, the one higher up will be this area that we have here. So let me remove this, right? So this one that's violated already. Price came in, and you can see that essentially what we're seeing over here is that demand areas are still being respected. So this area caused a break in this resistance. So this is your new demand zone. This area here. I'll remove the retracement as well, right? Because this is no longer valid. Price, this is the retracement for resistance, which price broke above, and currently we're seeing this area. So this is no longer valid, right? So the retracement that we should be doing, it's again, this is your low. So this is the pullback, the push up, right? So this is the low and this is the high, depending on where we see the pullback. This is the last move. So again, Fibonacci retracement of the move from low to high. And you can see that this support area that we've identified, right? Also the swing low where we saw that push down and that push up again. This is also in line with the 61.8 retracement. Okay, so this is on go, right? And let's take a look at dollar index. Okay, so we have a view on dollar index. So let's take a look at dollar index. Okay, sorry, just before that, right? Can gold spot return to test 1620? So 1620, it's okay. So 1620 is this region. So this is the low that we have over here, right? My view on this is that currently, right, if price comes into 1620 over here, right, it will have to break this area here first. So this for me is the support area, right? This region is the support area here. Before it tests 1620. So 1620, it still holds as the H4 support area that we have, right? This region over here. But what we need to keep in mind is that if we do see a reversal, right, this would be the first support area to watch out for over here. Right, and then likewise, you can see that in terms of the structure itself on the 4 hours on the daily, you can see that this pullback, this zone, where we're seeing, right, you can see this is the low, and then it picks up and it essentially forms a new high. And right now we're seeing this low being formed over here. So what this shows you is that if on a smaller time frame, you can see that support areas, so on a 4 hours time frame, if support areas are constantly being respected, what this shows you over here is that price could pull back deeper into a resistance area over here. So basically, this is the last leg where we saw that pullback, right? So if support areas are to be respected, what we can essentially see over here is that we can see a deeper pullback, basically shorter term bullish move for gold into this area here. So this is the next resistance level. Let me just remove the red marking so that's clearer. Okay, so this area over here, you can see that this is basically the last support area where price came in, tested as a support, and then failed. So this is the 4 hours resistance for me. Same thing, right? Look at how price interacted over here. If you take a look at it in terms of the candle, there's support. Price came in, interacted as support, and then failed completely. So this became a support and resistance level. So this is the next region, right? So if we do see a pullback here, as long as price holds above this region over here, right? For me, I think that we could still see more upside. Okay, so that's my view on gold, and this as the support area. So this is the most immediate support level. So this is one, right? And if price pulls back into this region, then this would be the next area. So these are the two areas that I have, right? So essentially on this zone, it's the same thing, right? So this is a 4 hours time frame. You can see that when price enters into this area, you can go down to the 30 minutes time frame, because if price comes into this region, it will have to form your lower lows and lower highs coming into this region. Again, you want to wait for a clear change in market structure first before continuing on the upside. Okay, so this is my view on gold, right? So these are the levels rather to take note of. And let's take a look at dollar index. So dollar index is on an interesting level right now. Okay, you're very welcome, right? So yeah, so this is the 61.8 retracement level that you have on gold. Okay, let's take a look at dollar index. And then we have requests for heating oil as well. Okay, so okay, Mick, do you have the ticker for heating oil? Okay, so if there's a specific ticker that you want me to take a look at, right, please put that under the tab. Okay, let's take a look at dollar index. If not, I'll just look at WTI. Okay, so this is on dollar index. So you can see dollar index broke the ascending trend line. We highlighted these levels in the previous calls, right? So essentially, let me just close the transcript. So on the higher time frame, same thing, right? You can see that on the weekly time frame, we have this region. So back on previously, prices are still holding above this ascending trend line. We highlighted two levels specifically, right? This is the support area where we saw the bounce off once over here. So this is the move. And the next one that we have in terms of the support area, which held multiple times in the previous week, would be this region here. So you can see that what happened with this support is that essentially price came in, tested the support area, pushed higher. It didn't reach this resistance area we've identified, right? Rather, it just went and tested this high, and you can see that price continued on the downside, came into the support area again, right? So respected the support area and then failed. So what it shows us over here is that this area itself, over here, this is a support turn resistance area. So I'll just probably put it in red so that we're able to see it clearer. So this area itself, you can see this region over here. This became a support turn resistance area here. And currently, in terms of the structure, you can see that this is the last low that we have, and prices are testing this region again. Okay, so this is the first resistance area to keep in mind. You can see this region over here. Okay, so the same thing, right? Having identified this, let me just remove all these levels, right? So this is the area. This is not valid anymore. Just remove this, and then again, so this was our previous setups, right? So essentially you can see that coming into this region, essentially prices are again sitting on this gray zone. So this is the area that we first identified as the support many weeks back, where we saw that bounce, right? So prices are revisiting this low as well. So for me, right, I think that we could see short-term upside into this region here, right? So this is at around the 111.80 area, this resistance area here, before we see more. So this would be a push up over here. And then depending on how price play out here, we could see more downside. So this is my view on dollar index, right? Overall, I think that once price breaks above, so if you take a look at it on the 4 hours time frame, you can see that this is basically the 4 hours low. So this is the low here. So once price breaks below this region, right, essentially it signals a bearish market structure with more downside. So this is my view on dollar index here. Right, let's take a look at it on the monthly. Yeah, so on the monthly time frame, back then we highlighted this level as well. You can see this area. Again, price basically pushing up. You saw that move up. This is the last support area before it continued to the downside. And this region now becomes a support turn resistance area here. Okay, you can see how price interacted with one another. So let me just zoom in, right? You can see this area. So let me just mark it in a different color. So you can see this is support. Price came in, right, respected the support, and you can see that this candle itself held before the gray zone fails. So if I extend this across, this is essentially the resistance area. Okay, so you can see price came in, right, it tapped right into this resistance area here. This is on the gray zone, right? So if you want to identify in terms of supply and demand, in terms of candles, this would be one. If not, right, if you want to look at it just in terms of support resistance areas, you can take a look at it in line chart as well. You can see that this is essentially the last support area where price pushed up before it failed. So now this becomes a support turn resistance area. Okay, I'll just put a horizontal line across so that we're able to see it clearer. But this is the idea. You can see this area, right? So this area that was tested as support, price came in, and right now it's holding below this region as a resistance. So if on the 4 hours picture, it's showing us bearish market structure as well, with the last break of this low, right? So when this low or this support zone that we have identified a few weeks back, right? Once this fails, I think we could be seeing more downside on dollar index. So this is what we are currently seeing on dollar index in terms of the technicals, right? So this is my view on dollar index, right? The shorter term resistance would be around this area here, right? So this region, this resistance at 111.80. Yeah, so this is on dollar index, right? Let me remove this resistance because this is price did not revisit this region, right? Just continue on the downside after. So this is my view on dollar index, right? I hope that answers your question further. Okay, let's take a look at Aussie dollar. Okay, I have an interesting comment, right? So someone commented, I think dollar index long-term structure has changed to bearish already due to the strong break. Yes, so currently this is the structure, right? If you take a look at it on the 4 hours, right, essentially this is the last low. So once price breaks below this low and also this zone, then I think we could see more downside. But I also agree that I think, right, we could be seeing more bearish move on dollar index. Okay, so this would be the low that I'm looking for, a clear break and close below to signal more downside. Okay, let's take a look at WTI, right? And okay, let's take a look at WTI here. You're very welcome for that. Okay, so same thing, right? Let's take a look at it on the higher time frame first. So if you take a look at it on the monthly, weekly, you can see this region, right? Prices are currently sitting on this resistance area. Support area here. So just looking at pure support resistance levels, you can see this region. So essentially, right, you can see this consolidation. Price came in, right? We saw clear higher lows and higher highs being formed, and then a clear break above this area. So this is one, right? And this itself is the support area. So this becomes a resistance turn support area. This is on the higher time frame. You can see that prices are currently sitting on this region. So having identified this, right, you can see that this is the push up and that pullback. Okay, so on this region itself, what we can do, right, it's that we can zoom into the smaller picture and you can see this area here. So essentially, let me just go to the monthly first. You can see this is probably clearer on the monthly. So essentially, we have this area, higher lows and higher highs being formed that you saw on the weekly. And then this region itself is your monthly support, because this is the last candle that still holds before we see that strong push up. So this is on the monthly picture. Something else to potentially take note of is that prices could be sitting on an ascending trend line, right? Even though this is not the best area, right? So trend lines can be a bit subjective. This is just something to take note of, but I will not consider this, right? I'll just consider this area. If you take a look at it on the weekly time frame, same thing, right? Having identified this area, what you can do next, this is the push up and that pullback. So we can do a Fibonacci retracement, taking this low and using this high as a resistance. So that's what we'll be doing. Fibonacci retracement of the move from low to high, open up the key levels, right? So 61, 78.6, these are the common ones. You can see in this case, this example, prices actually came in, right? We saw that reaction of the 78.6 level once here. So you can see this candle, this doji. Price came in, tap into this area, right? The support area. And right now we can see this is basically the picture on the weekly time frame. So on the weekly, it's potentially sitting on some kind of support region. You can see on the weekly, potentially an ascending trend line as well here. So let's take a look at it on the daily time frame, right? So on the daily picture, this is currently what we're seeing. You can see that there is a clear break above the last area. So you can see in terms of structure, right? So lower lows and lower highs being formed. Price came in and broke above the last high, and we're seeing this pull back into this region here. So for me currently, right, prices are sitting on a support area here. So same thing, right? How so? You can see how price interacted with this region. So take a look at it on the daily, take a look at it on the 4 hours. I think you can see it clearer as well. So on the 4 hours, this is the region. You can see this support and resistance level here. So same thing, right? Price coming down into this area. You can see the price acknowledging this level as a resistance and then a break or rather a hesitation here before a clear break above this region and then a retest of it. You can take a look at it in line chart as well, right? So this region over here. So essentially price came in, tested as a resistance, acknowledges as a support, and then this region, right? Same thing, it continued higher. And we have this resistance area. The price came in and currently it's sitting on as a support area here. So you can take a look at this. Let me just remove these markings. Right, so this is the area. If you have to take a Fibonacci retracement, again, push up, pull back. So this is the support area, right? This is the low that we want to be using, and this is the high that we're using as the ending point. So let's take a look at that, right? Fibonacci retracement from low to high, same thing. You have the 78.6 retracement level here. So this is one level to keep a lookout for. So currently on the 4 hours time frame, or it's sitting on the support area here. Right, so I think we could be seeing more upside. You can see this region as well, right? Let me see this area here. So you can see that prices are also sitting on the ascending trend line. So I think as long as price holds above this support area, we could see more upside on oil, right? So if you take a look at it on the 4 hours, the 1 hour, this is the area itself, right? So you can see prices are just forming these moves, and essentially what you have over here, if you take a look at the interaction between the candles, is that demand zones are being respected. You can see, let me just highlight it in a different color, right? So I'll put it in blue and you can see essentially this area itself, right? The zones are still being respected. Okay, so essentially you can see that basically the extreme, the last candle that we have over here, right? Prices are coming in to tap into this region to continue on the upside. So my view on gold is that this is the level. In terms of the short-term resistance, this is the high, right? So once we see a clear break above this high, right, this would be the next support level to keep in mind. So once price breaks above the structure, you can see that this candle itself is the candle where we saw price come in and essentially tap into this region. So this is the last candle that we have in mind here. So on the 1 hour time frame, right, a clear break above this high can signal more upside. So this is my view on oil. I think that we could be seeing more upside over here. In terms of the 4 hours resistance, this is the next level. Let me just mark this level across, right? Same thing, looking at how price react in terms of support and resistance level. So once this level fails over here, I think we could see more upside into the resistance zone that we have here. So this is my view on oil. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, Nick. Okay, so let's take a look at Aussie dollar, right? Yes, I do want to cover Aussie dollar as well, right? So let me just show you guys Aussie dollar. So Aussie dollar is sitting on an interesting level. So on the smaller picture, you can see that currently on the weekly time frame, right, we're seeing a basically bearish market structure coming into this area with your lower lows and lower highs being formed. Currently, prices are sitting on this support area, right? You are seeing this consolidation over here. So you can see again, right, there's this hesitation before the strong push up. So price came in, hesitated before that push up. You can see in terms of the line chart as well, right? This hesitation before that push up here. So currently prices are sitting on this higher time frame support area. Over here, I've marked out two zones on the 4 hours picture, right? So on the 4 hours picture, you can see that again, right? Clear support and resistance area. This was the previous support area here. Okay, let me just mark out the zone so that we're able to see it clearer. So this area. So you can see this region, right? So essentially price came in, price respected this area, and then we see a clear break and close below over here. A clear break and close below the blue zone, right? So it was the previous support area, which became resistance after, right? So this was the resistance area. And you can see that price came in, acknowledges this zone the first time. And then following which we saw a clear break and close above this area. So right now what we have, right, I marked out this gray zone, but you can also extend this level across. So let me just remove the area. So essentially this whole region, right? So this is a resistance turn support area because we saw how price held over here and then again over here before it broke above this region. In terms of the Fibonacci retracement, you can see that this is the last push up before that retracement. So you can take a low from here, starting point. And if we do see a pullback here, this would be our ending point. So Fibonacci retracement of the move from low to high. Same thing, open up the key levels, right? So these are all the levels that we have that are default on TradingView. So you can see this region itself, right? The 38.2 level line up here. This is one. And the other thing that we can do is our Fibonacci extension. So they're basically zigzag pattern. In this case, this would be the extension level, and these are the 3 points. So same thing, extension, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. So when you open up the key levels, these are the common ones that I use. So in this example itself, right, the 61.8 extension would line up with this zone. So this is the first region, right? And in terms of the 4 hours, this is the next resistance area. How so? You can see again how price interacted with this region. Even if I have to extend it across, you can see that price interacted with this region 3 times. You see this consolidation here before we saw that push down. So I think right now, where prices are, it's currently sitting within this area, right? So either we see a pullback into this zone before more upside, that's one, or we could see a push into the higher time frame here. So these are the 2 levels I'm keeping a watch out for on Aussie dollar currently, right? So if price enters into any of this region, right, same thing, go down to the smaller time frame. This is on the 15 minutes, right? So currently it's trading in the middle of nowhere right now, right? So these are the 2 zones that we have here. So a clear break of this region, right? Given that prices are sitting on the higher time frame support area, right? A clear break of this region itself, I think that we could see some push up to this resistance area here. Okay, but currently where prices are, because it's trading in the middle of nowhere, right? There's no range between this region, right? There isn't any nice trade setups, but once price enters into either of this region itself, right? You can go down to the 30 minutes or 15 minutes time frame and again identify support resistance areas on the smaller time frame, either to play along from this region or short here. Okay, so this is my view on Aussie dollar. I hope that helps. Okay, I have another question, right? Of course, I don't mind answering. Okay, so I don't mind answering at all, Chong. Right, so how can you use the feature that draws a line projecting the hypothetical price movement? Ah, okay. You mean this colored candles, is it? I believe you mean this one. Okay, so in this case, right, you can actually use this. Let me just take a look at this. I have it saved under my favorite toolbar, right? Let me just see where you can find it on TradingView. Let me take a look at this. It's here. Okay, so this is actually just the ghost feed. So under this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 7th icon. The 7th icon, just click on ghost feed and you can just draw this, right? So it basically, I use this to represent the projections. Yep, so this is that, right? You're very welcome. Okay, you're welcome, Zoran and Trong. Okay, so yeah, with that, we have come to the end of the session, right? And yeah, for Friday, or rather tomorrow, right, we will be having our educational session. And then on Friday, we will be going through the setups here. Okay, so thanks everyone for today, right? I hope to catch you guys for tomorrow's session as well. Stay safe, trade safe, and we'll catch you guys again. Thank you and goodbye.